Alright, welcome to my next video. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the truth about the American dream for African immigrants. Now, were you one of those people that, either has been a victim of saying that, oh man, I wish I was born in America because the American dream is only for Americans? Or have you been one of those people that has seen people say it all the time, saying that, man, it's hard in where I am, and if I was in America, it would have been way different? And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what's actually the real truth based on my opinion, because you watched my video, so you're watching about my opinion. If you have your own opinion, it's perfect. Just stay with it, and that's fine. So anyways, I'm going to start by talking about what is the American dream, right? At least what people say is the American dream. American dream is what people say that, you can go out there and start something maybe that people didn't believe in, and then later you become successful and you live in the life where you have a big family, a good house, and a wonderful lifestyle, right? And for a lot of people that you can, if you really look at most of the people that quote unquote have the American dream, most of them you realize that either their parents were immigrants or they themselves were immigrants, which is kind of weird if you think about it. But then again, if you really look into history, I'm not really good at history. I just know that with America, how America started was based on Columbus, who came with a ship into America and then found the land which was already being occupied by the Native Americans, and then took it, and then now you have America, which is mixed with like so many diverse cultures. Right. So then, what is the point of me saying this video? Now, one of the things I've always heard from my colleagues, from people that I know, from people that I don't know, is, life is hard in Africa. Life is hard in other countries, which is true. I'm not saying life isn't hard. But if you watch my other video where I talked about frames, I also believe, you should know that, what I mean, but basically I also believe that the way you look at things determines the result of what you get. The facts never matter if the attitude is right. If you have a different attitude into the circumstances that you're living, you would be surprised in terms of how much your results are different. Now, I'm going to define the word circumstance. The word, I'm going to write so that it's a little bit more visual. But the word circumstance comes from the root word circle. Circle, and then stance comes from the word stand. What does that mean? So that means you have a circle and you're standing in the middle. So let me just draw up someone. And basically, circumstance is basically what is going on around you. Now, the thing is about being in a certain circumstance is that depending on how you focus on what things around you, you can change the results of your life. Now, if you're someone who is, let's just say whatever circumstance, born in third world country, so Africa, whatever country it is, and then let's say single mom. Let's say somebody passed away, or let's say you witnessed someone get killed, so murder or whatever, that happens. And then let's say poor. All these are circumstances that might be happening in your life. Now, depending on how you look at them, you can change how your life actually becomes. If you focus on what happened in your life, and you just keep on focusing on that, like, oh man, I was born here, raised by my mom and all that, and then you just focused on like so many things are just bad for me and everyone else is doing better than me because they have a different situation, then you will just stay here. But then if you were able to get out of this circumstance, get out of this focus and stay on the outside looking in, and then just say like, okay, this is what I came from, but then this doesn't define you. If this doesn't define you, then you can be able to get out and make something of your life. Now, the reason why, this is what I believe, the reason why I see most of the people that actually become, the percentage of people that become successful, and success is not defined by money only, it's defined by doing the things that they wanted to do, when to do, like when they want to, and how they want to, and it's just feeling good about themselves. So people who are successful, one of the reasons why they're successful is because, one of the first reasons is because they did not focus on their circumstances. They know that it happened and it's fine, and it happened and it's sad or it's happy, but then they don't let that define them. Because if you let something define you, then you become a victim. And when you become a victim, then it's almost like you let things just keep on happening to you. But if you decide to take control of your life, take control of some of the things that have happened to you, and decide to make something happen for yourself, then you can get out of that circumstance and make a different circumstance for yourself. And the funny thing is when you create something else for yourself, you almost become unrecognizable, because people now cannot define you with the things that you came from. They now define you in a different way, and you choose to stay that way. So I'm going to give you an example. So I remember, and this is me, so I came in America when I was 19 years old, and I didn't come from a rich family, and same thing, I might have some circumstance where my parents divorced when I was young and all that, but then at the same time, I didn't let that define me, because if I had let that define me, then I would have probably been saying words like, you know what, I would never, maybe the chances of me going through a successful marriage is very low, because I came from a broken household. So then, the chance of me finding a woman that I would actually marry would have been very low. Like right now, I'm married already, and I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would not. And the reason why I even was able to attract someone who I believe is, a person that I would be with for a long time, is because I didn't let the circumstances define me. That's one area on the relationship side. On wealth, if I just say I just came from a poor family, so that means I'm probably going to be poor my whole life. If I had let that define me, then things would have been different. One of the biggest things, my channel is more focused on money. So one of the biggest changes I had to make was me to accept, or to just say that it's possible for me to, even though I'm an immigrant. Whereas where I see a lot of other immigrants coming here, and they're just like, oh, well, that type of lifestyle is only for people who are born and raised here. But that's not true, because if you look at the people, some people that are born and raised here, they would probably sometimes be living worse than people who are immigrants. So it's like, it's all how you look at it. So if I had chose to decide that, because I remember when I was working at a car wash, I used to say, most of the time when people are like, man, you're a really good worker, like, why don't you go find, like, I would have people offer me jobs to go doing something that, would have been way nice, and I would say no before even even looking into it, because I'm like, man, I don't have papers, so I can't do it. And I just kept on saying that, but then what I didn't realize was that I was holding myself back. And you might be holding yourself back too, because you're saying no to things just because of the situation that you're in. And only when you decide to say that, let me actually look into this, or let me actually take the chance, because what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? If you're denying yourself of opportunities just because of whatever situation you're from, you're holding yourself back. And that is like one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in the same place for a long period of time. When you look at people who decide to make a change and decide to do something for themselves, and you ask them, did you get permission from somebody, or was there what was the moment that got you from where you were to where you're from? And when you look at it, most of the time, it's really the awareness. I've always said this in all my videos, and I'm going to say it again. What people are lacking is not access. People don't lack access. people lack awareness. So if you think like you can't get somewhere because you don't have access to something, you have to rethink that again. Because really what it is lack awareness on something. In the Bible, I'm an amateur at the Bible, but if you look at Genesis, the reason why Eve ended up eating the fruit was really because the devil, the serpent, all he did was just have her pay attention to what she was lacking. So she, at first, wasn't lacking access to the fruit. All she was lacking was awareness to the lack. And basically, the serpent made her aware of what lack she had, and she decided to leave and not, let go of all the abundance that God gave her to go and try the fruit. So if you think about it, in your life, if you want to get better in your finances, if you want to get better in your health and wealth and relationships, most of the time, and I guarantee you, all you're lacking is awareness to what you have already. And if you just tap into that, what anything you have already, you'll be surprised in terms of what you can do. I'm looking at this camera right now and I'm terrified, but it's fine because I know I'm gonna get better. But for me to say that I can never be able to talk to a camera, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. It's different in terms of, instead of me saying that, you know what, I just want to get better at this, and since I already have whatever skill set that I already have, then I can just hone whatever I'm trying to achieve. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is you got to be able to look into your life and be aware of what you already have. And it's a really fun exercise to do. I did it with my coach before, where you can just have a list and write what you're good at. And most people, like, one of the biggest quotes I like that I've heard is, thinking is the hardest thing most people never do. So this requires you thinking. Sit down and make inventory of what you're good at and just write down. And then when you write down what you're good at, and you can do it with any category in your life. I'm really more focused on wealth right now, but the big three is always health, relationship, and wealth. So let's say in the wealth area, you want to start a business. You're not sure what to start. Make an inventory. Find out what you're good at. Write down all the things you're good at. And then this is based on what people have said to you that they think you're good at, based on where you feel more comfortable, where you feel like yourself. And you can even throw in some things that you're really you're getting better at. And then from there, now look at what's a problem that someone has that you can solve using the things that you're good at. And then boom. Then you have imagination, and then you imagine this business and you can start it, and it's a risk that you're going to take, but at the same time, you're not going to live too long to be able to you're not going to live too long to not experience life. I just think if I'm going to do something, the time is going to go by anyway, so I might as well just start now. So just start it, and then from there get better, and you'll get better and get better and get better, and then in the future, who knows what will happen. So anyways, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna leave it here because this video is just something that I think just came to my mind, and I'm thinking if you are in a different country or if you are in America and you've told yourself that the American dream is not for me, you might be denying yourself of the awareness that you already have. You have to now look inside yourself and start looking at what are you good at. The thing is about human beings, we always like to focus on what we're not good at. We always like to focus on the negative. And it's if you think about it, it's really about survival, and that's the reason why, our bodies our brains actually. I read this book called what was the book name? I can't remember the book's name, but the book talked about what the brain really does. The brain is a powerful predictive machine. So what the brain actually does is that if something happened to you and it was a bad experience or it's a painful experience, your brain likes to avoid those things. So what it does, it's always looking to predict something that is negative, and if it predicts something that's going to happen that's negative, it's going to make you get away from it. And one of the biggest things that stops us from succeeding is getting ourselves into an uncomfortable situation. So when we program our brains to just be comfortable in the uncomfortable, then we can grow. And one of the reasons why people do cold plunges is because they train themselves to be comfortable in that area. Because when you get into a cold ice bath, I did it once, and I only lasted 30 seconds. And I remember, like, when I got there, my brain was just like, get out of here, you're gonna die. But then the real thing is, you're not gonna die. You just gotta, the people who are really good at it, they stay there, and then when they stay and then they train their brains to be able to do that all the time, where if you're like about to take on a new risk, and you can take it because you've trained yourself to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that's where you grow. So I hope this video helps you, and I'll see you on the next one.